think that we are uniquely positioned to help this industry in that
Mhm.
we are really looking to support the HME community and the DME community
Mhm.
so that we can have an impact on the patients. And we want to drive strong and quality patient care. And we think that tech is the way to do that. Time is the absolute most precious resource. And so
Mhm.
we can give time back to our patients. If we can give time back to our customers, what else could we be doing that's more valuable than that?
Good morning, Katie. Welcome to podcast where we explore how technology and human insight are reshaping in healthcare. I'm your host, Drupal Patel, and today I'm delighted to introduce today's guest, Katie Lynch, VP of Operations at Darby. Katie, I'm really excited to have you here. I think you spent your career taking complex, messy operation challenges and turning them into elegant systems. And now you are doing that in one of the most, I would say, impactful corners of healthcare. So today's conversation is not just about for tech's sake, it's more about how people like you are reshaping, rethinking the way healthcare operations actually work. So before we hit the ground, how's your morning going? Anything fun or chaotic in the mix?
Always both fun and chaotic in the mix.
Great.
In addition to being the VP of Ops at Darby, I also have three small children. So joyful chaos is how we describe our household, and today is no exception to that.
Great to hear that. I like that excitement. So let's dip little bit dive on your personal and little bit of professional background. So Katie, you strike me as someone who's deeply intentional, right, about how you show up as a leader. What experience outside of your work have shaped how you lead today? It could be your hobby, it could be a mentorship, it could be as a teacher, educator, or personal philosophy.
I think that there's a couple things that come to mind. I played sports growing up, always played sports as sort of an amateur.
Awesome.
I like to say that I peaked in high school athletically, but still consider myself
Hmm.
an athlete. And when I think back to the coaches and the teammates that I had that really helped get me and get our teams to the greatest success, the people
Hmm.
I think about are the ones that pushed hard and had lofty goals, but also helped people get there. So one of the best swim coaches I had really pushed to get certain times, but really was along every step of the way. And that's really how I sort of try to show up in life and in work and
Hmm.
personally too. So I have high expectations, but I also have high accountability and really try to make sure that if I'm expecting something of someone, giving them clear directions and also giving them the support they need to execute on that.
Awesome. Great to hear that. And I know you are VP of operations, and I know it's hard to balance sometimes work versus life, family. So when you are not solving like complex operational puzzles, issues, what's something that completely recharge you on daily basis, or, say, example, pulls away from your daily work mode?
Yeah, so I do try and move in some capacity every single day. So
Okay,
a lot of times that looks like exercise. I swim, I go to workout class,
great.
but even just like stretching, I know that sounds so simple, but really
Hmm.
getting my body moving every single day. And again, this sounds very silly and simple, but really laughing, like trying to find something that makes me laugh, whether that's talking to a friend or watching like blooper videos or something that gets
Great.
sort of really mentally detach from anything else and try and be present in the moment of something that, to our first conversation or first part of our conversation really like sparks some joy.
Right. No, that's great to hear that. So, if your close friends, your family friends describe you in just three words, right? What do you think they should say? And which one would surprise you most to your coworkers?
I doubt anything that my friends and family would say would surprise my coworkers because I think I show up similarly in both venues. I think that folks would say I am thorough, that I am hardworking, which I think is a hyphenate. I think that's technically one word.
Right.
And I think caring. I think that those are probably the three that people would, those are the first three that come to mind anyway.
No, great, great. And that's awesome. So let's move a little bit our needle to the professional side at Darby. So I know Darby sits at such an intersection, like interesting intersection at between healthcare, AI, and automation.
Mhm.
What drew you personally to this mission?
Darby's mission ultimately at the end of the day is to help patients
Mhm.
get access to the things that they need quicker. And AI and automation is just a vehicle to do that. I started my career actually in education and I was working in that space for about 10 years before I pivoted to tech.
Mhm.
The thing that drew me to education is the same thing that drew me to this space, which is who is the end person on the end of at the end of the day that you're trying to benefit. In education, it was students and their families. And in this instance, it's patients and their families. And so that hook, that draw was similar to one I'd known, just in a different context. And the way in which we're going about doing that through automation, through AI, through technology is really fascinating. And as anyone knows, it's an evolving space. So the combination of those things is what excited me.
And absolutely, it is a kind of evolving a lot, especially in the healthcare niche. So I agree. So when do you think about people Darby serves, right? HME providers, healthcare teams, what problems keep you up at the night on their behalf?
I worry that we're not doing enough quick enough, to be honest. The medical equipment that our customers sell to patients and dispense to patients is critical. It's life-saving, right? If people do not have
Right.
oxygen, they cannot breathe. If they
Like,
get access to what they need for their diabetes, they will die. And so I worry that the bottlenecks that exist in this system are preventing
mhm.
people from getting access to life-saving medicine in a quick way. And I worry that we're not operating quick enough and we're not solving those problems quick enough, even with all the advances that we've made in automation and in technology.
And I hope for that specific, I would say like in a concerning or maybe, I would say like not an issue, but it's more a kind of a concern. And then you might have, or Darby might, should have those corrective actions in place. So we don't want to hit those kind of concerns. So was there a Darby moment when you saw the tech actually change someone's day? Maybe a workflow that suddenly just worked or some kind of innovation that works out well.
For sure. A big part of what we do is help intake teams process their orders more quickly. We've made a lot of advances in our tech over the last couple of months, and we have gone from, some parts of automation can take anywhere from, a couple hours to a couple days. And with our tech, we've helped teams speed up their processes by, 2x. We had a call with a customer about a week ago where he was talking about how just more work has, how much quicker his team is able to move through their list of orders using our technology. And so when that tech was built, there was the aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then when
Right.
the customer was able to relay the business impact that they had, that was great as well. So both of those are really something that help keep you going when times are a little bit more complex and a little bit tougher, for sure.
And if you had to describe Darby's a secret sauce in one sentence, what would it be?
I think that we are uniquely positioned to help this industry in that
Mhm.
we are really looking to support the HME community and the DME community
Mhm.
so that we can have an impact on the patients. And I think that that really sits at the center of what we're doing. We want to drive strong and quality patient care. And we think that tech is the way to do that, but we're not. We're a tech company we're a patient company that
Right.
happens to be in the tech business, is the way I would describe it.
Okay, and thanks for clarification because what I was thinking maybe after hearing your comment or your response, Darby is really about giving the people their time back because of those devices, they might save some time for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it. Like time is the absolute most precious resource. And so if
Mhm.
we can give time back to our patients, if we can give time back to our customers, then, what else could we be doing that's more valuable than that?
And I know that you started at Darby around like almost now 1.5 year. So since you joined or started at Darby, what shifts have you noticed in how healthcare organization thinks about automation?
So yeah, I think my very first day was January 30th, 2024. So we're closing in on the 2 year mark. Thank you. I think that AI was not as well known of a thing. Like just even if you take away healthcare, like AI has changed so much in the last month, the last 6 months, the last 9 months, like put a parameter around it and it's shifted significantly
Hmm.
in that time. And so within healthcare, we've seen our customers go from being a little reticent, a little gun shy, to curious, to, oh my gosh, we have to get on board because we're going to be left in the dust, to
Right.
now there's all these options and on board, but we have to be really particular. We have to be more thorough and do our due diligence around the options because there's so many choices. So the mentality and the buy-in has really shifted across the landscape pretty dramatically.
I agree. And that's something I'm going to ask the same kind of along those lines, right? Sometimes people hear AI in healthcare and picture complexity and compliance headaches. So, do you have any insight, like what do you wish more people understood about AI?
Yeah, I think approaching any new technology with a curiosity is the right way to think about it. And, there's a lot of resistance and that's not a bad thing either, but I would encourage folks to think about things with sort of a critical lens, like how might this help us solve a problem in a much more productive way? And then if you have that sort of critical reflection around it, thinking about, okay, well, what gaps does this not yet solve? Or what
Mhm.
gaps will this never solve? And how do we sort of address that? And is that even meaningful? Like, do those gaps even matter? Right. So, not viewing
Right.
it as like a good or a bad, but
Hmm.
it's here. And so, how might we make the most of it? How might this accelerate things? And how might it totally help us deprioritize? And are those things that it's deprioritizing, it helps you sort of reconsider and reframe, your business challenges or the whole context of what you're thinking about.
Right, right. I agree on that. So when you talk to your customers, to partners, where do you sense the most excitement and where do they still hesitate?
In my experience, the most excitement is around the things that AI does best, which is automating things that are best suited for technology and computers and like are not best suited for humans, right? Like the
Right.
same rote, mundane experience processes, et cetera, that should be automated. That should go to AI, that should go to tech. And that's so much of what exists in this industry. So people do get excited about that because they think about, okay, well, how does that free up? How,
Mhm.
if I don't have to worry about this business problem anymore because it's outsourced to tech, how does that free up my business operations to do more in a different area, right? So that's really exciting.
Right.
I think the flip side to that, where folks are
Mhm.
concerned or not sure what the play is how does this impact my people? How does this impact the humans? And because so many HMEs and DMEs are these family owned, family operated, like mom and pop,
Right.
an extension, almost an extended family type of business, I think there is a real concern around what that means for those people that previously had those jobs. To which I often counsel that, like, this is a way for those people to add value to the business in a different capacity.
Right.
That, like,
Mhm.
if there we have a lot of customers that have walk-ins and there's
Mhm.
only so many people that can handle walk-ins if you have a team of billing that's handling all of your intake orders. And so
That's true.
all of a sudden all of your intake is automated and outsourced. You went from having one person to handle walk-ins or customer service calls to having 5 people to do that. And think about how that increases customer satisfaction and patient care. Like that's a dramatic impact, right? And
Impact.
so that like people haven't had the capacity to think about that because the solutions haven't existed. And so they're really rethinking their business operations and their business models in a critical way.
And you actually touch, I love that, Means you touch amazing. It's actually you touch something that bigger than technology. So I'm really fascinated with that. So from where you sit, right, I would say Darby, what's working out right now in Darby's growth story? What is working really awesome right now at Darby?
Yeah, I would say that we used to think very specifically about the how do we solve this business pain
Hmm.
for these HMEs, right? Like, how do we get them,
Right,
their patients, access to things more quickly? And that sort of led us to think about the whole ecosystem in a different way. So I think what we're trying to consider now is not just, okay, well, how do we help these HMEs, but how do we leverage the technology that is sort of like underscores all of our offering? And how do
hmm
we relay that into other services that help the broader healthcare space? And there's a couple of different ways we can think about that, but I think it's not, we've been looking at the problem from sort of a singular lens, and now we're sort of shifting
right.
it and now thinking about, okay, well, if we tackle something in this way, then we can reach a larger demographic. And if we tackle something in this way, like it's less about like features and functionalities and more just about like broader pains that we're trying to solve across the whole landscape.
And that is more about like the more positive way, right? And when we talk about on the flip side of means on the flip side, what's still surprising hard, even though you might have or Darby might have a right tech, a right team in place, what is still surprisingly hard?
It sounds so simple and so funny. Change is so hard for any human, any person, any business. Shifting behaviors is really hard. Shifting mindsets is really hard.
Hmm.
And even in the best of circumstances where, okay, like I am investing in this tech and it's increasing, my bottom line and I have all of this up, like there's upside is still hard too because that is a change, right? And so even
Right.
positive changes, there's still sort of you have to negotiate through that positivity as well. And so I think that getting people, if you had interviewed me a year ago, I would have said like, oh, people aren't bought into AI. They would have been like that's gone, right? Like people are bought in. And now
Right.
I think it's a couple of things. It's people know that this is here to stay. They're trying to figure out how to invest in it. They're trying to make the right choice. And then it's
Hmm.
also anticipating what the impact is going to be and how they're going to adjust based on that impact. So it's not just like the immediate change of like, I'm committed to making a business decision and I predict it's going to impact these 3 areas. You can only like plan so much after that. So also being able to sort of ride the wave in this way that is thoughtful and intentional, but also like it doesn't cause everyone to spin out and freak out because change is hard.
Right.
That's remained a consistent problem, not a problem, but a consistent thing that has come up. And I think a big part of how Darby positions itself is like, we are here as your trusted partner to go along this
Mhm.
with you. And because we have a customer base, we can talk about what other folks are doing and how they're changing things and sort of normalize any of the shifts that are happening.
Right, right. And yeah, that is the common problem to sometimes resistance to change, people, patient, HMEs, so. And if you could fast forward 6 months, a year from now,
Mhm.
and celebrate a headline win for Derby, what would be the headline says from the Derby perspective? I think we had a chat earlier as well, and you mentioned something along those like maybe Derby, it's like maybe focusing on the specific niche or specific focus group, maybe might expand that, or it could be anything.
I would love it to be something like Darby expands team to X to focus on Y initiative, right? Like I would love us to be
Hmm.
so successful as an organization that we need to bring on even more talented people and to continue to execute against like our larger roadmap, right? So
Right.
really lucky that we have just these such hungry, driven, smart, capable humans that are working with us to have an impact in this space. And I'd love to bring more of them along for the ride. And so if we could have something that sort of, if we're doing
Sort
well
of.
enough as a business that we can expand so we can do more and do more with our team, that like that would be great. I would love that.
Awesome. I love that too. So on the another side, like what's the single constraint, maybe internal or external, right? If it's disappear, would unlock the most progress?
Yeah, so a constraint is, I mean, this space is really new, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's no expert in this space. It's not like, oh,
Okay.
we just need to hire this person that's like a major expert in X, or like
Okay.
there's some people that have greater expertise, but
Hmm.
there's not like an expert in AI, and certainly not an expert in like AI in healthcare, right? So
Exactly.
that's a constraint. I would say there's not like a real roadmap or guideline for how to do this. So what do you do with that? You like start with what you know and you go to what you don't know. And you like start with people that have experience and capabilities, and also like quite frankly are like curious and hungry to play in this space, and you put them in the seat and you're like, go figure it out. And that's sort of how we're dealing with it, is we don't know everything. We think we know a lot. Our team is great and seasoned, and we've experienced a lot of
Hmm.
different business challenges, and we're just applying what we know to these new contexts, and it's working for us so far.
Great, great. I love that. It gives such a clear window to where healthcare operations are headed. So, looking back at your journey, what is the one piece of advice that you want to give to someone stepping into the operation role at the fast, I would say, growing health tech startups?
Buckle up.
Great, great
Yeah, I mean,
segue.
yeah, I would just say that like no two companies are the same. Operations, you get to do a lot of different things, which is really exciting. And as long as you are sort of along for the ride and have a clear understanding of like, this is why I'm here, this is what I want to work on, this is what I think I'm going to be able to do, like the rest is just details. And so like just
Right.
and stay along for the ride as long as it makes sense, because it'll take you somewhere. It really will.
Awesome, awesome. This is my question where like if someone is coming from the operation side, maybe it will not be healthcare. It might be some other industry, but it's kind of a same concept, same skill set, and you say just buckle up. You need to work hard and then make sure that operations works well. And the my last question to our audience, to our listeners, if they want to learn about you, want to connect with you, or more learn about Darby, where would be they can go?
Sure. Darby is getdarby.com. You can connect with me at Kaity, Kaity dot Lynch, Lynch at getdarby.com. I welcome any outreach for real. Like I'm happy to talk to anyone, especially those that are trying to figure this out. It's not always a straight path. You can also find
Mhm.
me on LinkedIn, Katie Paget Lynch.
Thank you so much, Katie. And this has been such an amazing, insightful conversation. And I would say, like, our listener would love this conversation, at least from the operation perspective. Your journey started. I know you came from first the education side, and then now you joined the healthcare. So this is going to be amazing. And I love how you blend operations precision with the empathy for human side of healthcare, I would say. So, and there are so much to unpack here. So, but we'll stay in touch and we'll take something offline. But again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you so much for our listener. Can't wait to share this episode idea, what we covered today. Thank you so much, and signing off now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, sure. Let me know if you need anything else. It was fun, and we'll talk soon.
Sure. Let's keep in touch. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thanks,
Have a
Drupal.
great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye bye now.